Whoa! How are you guys? How good is tonight? Yeah! I tell you what, who needs an ogga when you've got future science talks, hey? We are on fire tonight. Now, it's great to see so many people out on a Monday night as a school night. My name is Andrew Sullivan. I am a full-time university student. Yes, it is a school night, and I'm out on a school night. I see a few kids in the crowd tonight. It's great to see. But a lot of people, when I say I'm a full-time student, they probably don't think I look like one. Probably think I look more like somebody who's got children that go to university, or I teach at university. But no, I am a student. Now, speaking of what I look like, last year, Jimmy Reese came to Hobart. Did anyone go and see Jimmy Reese? He came down, he did a great show, and he did a segment in his show called The Kiss Cam, where he was up on stage, like I am now, and he had a camera, and he would zoom in on couples in the audience and get them to kiss up on the big screen. And he zoomed in on a couple just in front of me, and he got distracted by me and said, "Oh, look out, we've got Carl Barron in the audience tonight." He moved away, but then quickly came back and he said, "Oh no, that's bloody Paul Kelly." So here I am tonight, folks. I am the love child of Paul Kelly and Carl Barron. There'll be lots of jokes about how to make gravy tonight, so take note. Now, excuse me. Now, when I tell people that I'm a university student, they actually often don't believe me. So what I've had to do is I've had to carry my student ID card around with me all the time. In fact, I brought it with me tonight. Now, I consider myself very fortunate to be able to go back to university. I've got 3 great kids. I've also married to a beautiful woman who's got a job. And they're very supportive of me going back to uni. In fact, about 6 months ago or so, we had a big family meeting and we made the difficult decision for me to move out. I've moved into a share house with 3 other children. I know, it's a big move, but I really wanted to embrace the student lifestyle. So it's going really well. I love my new housemates. We get on really well. We do lots of things together. We have breakfast together. We head off to class together. And when I've got a bit of spare time, I join in on some of their lectures as well. Now, but when I tell people that I'm doing it, sorry about that, folks. Now, a lot of people, when I tell them I'm back at university doing a PhD, they'll say something like, "Oh, good on you, that's so great. Great role model for your children." Or they'll say, "Oh, it's so inspiring, to go back and do that at your age. What made you do that?" And I'll look at them and I'll say, "Well, I've got 3 pubescent children at home. It's the best thing I could think of to get out of the house." No, puberty's great fun, isn't it, parents? Yes. No, the reason I've gone back to university is because I love the ocean. Now, a lot of people love the ocean, but I really love the ocean. And I love what you can do in the ocean. I love going fishing. I love going fishing. And yes, I love going fishing. Now, as well as loving fishing and the ocean, I've also had an ocean-based career for the last 25 odd years. And during that time, I've developed a bit of a passion for ocean governance. Now, ocean governance is just a bit of a fancy way of saying how we manage the activities that happen in the ocean. So, when an opportunity came up to study an international group who were trying to improve the governance of our oceans, I jumped at the opportunity. So my PhD is focusing on a group called the High Level Panel for a Sustainable Ocean Economy, the Ocean Panel. Now that sounds very high level, Yes, and it is. The Ocean Panel is essentially a club. It's a club made up of leaders of 18 different countries from around the world. And they get together to talk about and develop ways to try and improve the way we manage our oceans. So it was started in Norway in about 2018. And it's to become a member of the Ocean Panel, you have to be invited by the Prime Minister of Norway. So it's quite exclusive. So I'm studying this group to get a better idea of how an initiative like this can improve the way we govern the oceans globally, but also here in Australia. And the way I'm doing this is that I'm going and interviewing people. So I'm interviewing the Norwegians who started off this project and asking them a whole heap of questions about how and why they did it. So the first question I asked them was, why do we need the Ocean Panel? And what they told me was this: the ocean health is in decline. And if you have been listening tonight, you would have heard lots of reasons about why the ocean is in decline. Everything from sea level rise, we've got coral bleaching, pollution. So I think we can agree it's a good reason to act. We only have one ocean, and the ocean connects us all. So it's a global problem, and it requires a global solution. The other thing they told me was that, well, Leonardo just can't be everywhere. But why Norway? Well, Norway are a pretty big player when it comes to the ocean. They've got big fisheries, they've got big aquaculture, they've got big offshore wind, and they've got really big oil and gas as well. So they consider they've got a fair bit of knowledge and experience about this stuff. And like I said, they've got big oil and gas, so they've got lots and lots of money. So they can put lots of money into this stuff as well. But one of the most crucial things about the Norwegians is that, well, they're Vikings. And Vikings, by ruling the ocean, ruling the world but through the oceans is what Vikings do best. Now, how does something like this work? Well, here you go. These are the 18 leaders from around the countries that are part of the Ocean Panel. Now, they get together about once a year to talk about what they can do about the oceans. Now, but the real work happens behind the scenes. So, I haven't been Prime Minister before, but I'm pretty sure it's a pretty busy job, yeah? So, the leaders of the countries have got a special representative to help them. And this person's got a special name. This person's called a Sherpa. I'm not making this up, okay? They're called a Sherpa, as in the Nepalese Sherpas that help, rich people climb up to Mount Everest, yeah? So, just like the Nepalese Sherpas, the Ocean Panel Sherpas, their job is to do all the thinking about how to manage the oceans. They do all the lifting. And for the Australian Sherpa, they've got a special job as well. They have to look after Albo's dog. Hello, Toto! But unlike Sherpas from Nepal, the Ocean Panel Sherpas have also got their own helpers. And their helpers have got a special name too. Now, get ready for this. The name for these helpers is called a sous Sherpa. Yeah? A sous Sherpa. I'm not making this shit up, I promise. This is international diplomacy at its best, yeah? So a sous Sherpa is your standard Nepalese Sherpa, right? Except they've been trained in French cookery. So seriously, this stuff just does write itself. Now, the sous Sherpa, they're basically like the government bureaucrats, the workers, yeah, for that country. And they're responsible for implementing all of the recommendations from the Ocean Panel. So their role is firstly to make sure that the Sherpa doesn't do or say anything stupid, right? The second thing they have to do is they need to prepare all the policy and season it to make sure that it's, really sexy sounding and, really ambitious and things like that. The other thing that the sous Sherpas have to do is they have to make sure that Toto is cooked just right. About 65 degrees, internal temperature. So what does the ocean panel actually do? They don't cook Toto, I promise. So the ocean panel, they get together, as I said, once a year to try and work out how to accelerate action on climate change. And in the first few years, what they did is they got hundreds of scientists from around the world to come together, including some of our scientists here in Hobart, and they put together a bunch of reports and recommendations about how best to manage the ocean, which was really cool, really great stuff. One of the really important things they did is they made a commitment about managing the oceans. So all the members of the Ocean Panel have made a commitment to implement what's called Sustainable Ocean Plans by 2025. Now, a Sustainable Ocean Plan is basically a plan to sustainably manage the ocean. Okay, you with me? You got that? For Australia, what this means is basically we're going to try and plan on how we manage all the waters within our national jurisdiction. Now that's all the stuff in yellow there. Now this area is called the Exclusive Economic Zone, the EEZ. So all the countries, ocean countries around the world have got these EEZs. And actually when you put together the EEZs of all the countries who are part of the Ocean Panel, it actually makes up 45% of the world's EEZs. So these guys are a pretty big deal when it comes to managing oceans. But let's look a little bit closer to home, eh? This is Bass Strait. So I want to just point out that sort of lighter colour blue, the sort of the flat area there before it drops off into the deep ocean. Now this is a really important area. It's called the continental shelf. Now the continental shelf is basically where more than 80% of the ocean's biodiversity and productivity happens. So it's a crucial place. It's also where most of the human impacts occur as well, which we've seen a little bit about tonight. So let's look at what goes on. Here we've got some areas set aside for conservation and protection, marine parks and things. We've also got electricity and communication infrastructure out there. We've got oil and gas mining going on. We've got big areas for wind farms. And we've also got a heap of coastal shipping, tourism, fisheries, aquaculture. There's a whole host of stuff going on out there. Plus, we've also got a whole bunch of different governments who are responsible for managing these areas. Just in Bass Strait alone, you've got the Victorian government, the Tasmanian government, and the Commonwealth government, who are all responsible for managing different parts of the ocean. But if you're still not convinced about the need to manage this really important area, the continental shelf is essential to our way of life. Because it's the continental shelf is where we find continental parsley, continental breakfasts, and a student's essential item, the good old continental cup of soup. So I hope you'll agree that managing these areas is critical for the health of the ocean, for the planet, and for a balanced diet as well. Now, assessing how effective these sustainable ocean plans is going to be another part of my research down the track. But what I find really cool is that from a simple idea about getting together the world leaders to accelerate action on oceans, that in a few short years, 45% of the world's oceans will be managed under sustainable ocean plans. Which reminds me of a song I wrote. From little things, big things grow. Thanks guys, have a great night, thanks for coming.